Oh, God. Still don't know how to use this. Alright, so, I watched Gretel and Hansel. Yes, I haven't used this marquee thing since Cats because, because I always keep forgetting even though I walk by it every day and look at the words Cats, WTF, sad face, all that stuff. Anyway, so, I rented, I was about to say I rented Cats. No, that's a one-time only viewing. I rented Gretel and Hansel, and there we go. This was a January horror release, and it was end of January. It literally came out like the 31st of January. And I initially wasn't gonna like care to watch it because it's a January horror, and it's like, okay, I thought I heard something. And usually, January horror, it's like, okay, that's something I'll end up watching, like, when it's, like, September, October, like, during that time, or, like, towards the end of the year when I'm making my list and all that stuff, But I was like, well, oh, cool, never turn off my phone when I do this. I never, there you go. But, since what else is there to do, during this time? So I watched it, and there was one review I saw on Letterboxd that said this deserved better than a January dump, which is true. It's true. In all honesty, I feel like it should have been more like a February horror, maybe beginning of March. I don't know. Obviously, it takes place in the woods and stuff, so maybe, like, during September, October, it would have been great, but at the same time, like, I don't think it really would have worked out. This movie's only, like, 80-something minutes long? 87 minutes. It's not very long, but kind of just like Color Out of Space, it was very slow-moving. Whereas this one, I have to say, the pacing of it being slow, it made sense. And to bring it back to comparing it to Mandy again, it worked that way because, like, the story is, like, the slow build-up kind of thing. Whereas Color Out of Space was just, it's like an insanity happening, So you were, okay, my phone's just buzzing like crazy. So you were kind of, like, it felt slower because of, you knew it was going to get erratic. Yeah, so with Gretel and Hansel, it's called Gretel and Hansel instead of Hansel and Gretel because this is more focused on her. Usually, we all know with Hansel and Gretel, it's two kids, they go in the woods, there's a witch, there's a cabin, and it's filled with stuff, that kind of stuff. Because, like, the last Hansel and Gretel movie I watched was Hansel and Gretel, what is it, like, Witch Hunters? What the fuck is it? I'm looking at, like, yeah, that one, the one with Renner. And that one was, like, really, really, like, it was ridiculous, like, I liked it because it was just so, like, ridiculous. This one was definitely more serious, and this one you had Gretel, who was, like, I think I looked on IMDb, they said she's about 12, and then whereas Hansel's about 8, and then I saw a review on, on Letterboxd, where someone was they're like, this, they should just call this movie Gretel, because Hansel was like, it was like, Hansel, you didn't do shit. Then again, if you think about it, like, she is 12 and he's 8, it is her literally carrying this film, Like, I enjoyed it, but it was also, like, there was things that bothered me. One was definitely, like, everyone had, like, an accent, because this is, like, in the woods in probably somewhere in England, like how usually these stories take place, or just Europe, let's generalize it, because everyone else had, like, also everyone's accent weren't consistent, because you got someone with, like, a very, like, it was like a very English accent, and then someone has South African accent, and then, the Gretel, she didn't have an accent, well, everyone has an accent, but you know what I mean. She didn't have an accent. She just had her, like, American, like, accent. Like, the hunter guy, which he sounded like John Boyega, like, and then you got, like, the witch, who has, like, this fucking South African accent, and then you got Gretel, who's like, I was in the woods today. Like, this voice, Everyone else is like, it's like, oh, they're like, oh, you better watch yourself out there. You better watch yourself, and then the witch is like, she's like, I don't know how to do a South African. Trevor Noah, but then God, weird noise in this house. But yeah, but then Gretel's like, she's doing, like, narration voiceover kind of stuff, and she's like, so the other day, I was just thinking, like, that really threw me off, because, like, Hansel had an accent. It's one thing if, like, the two of them, or, like, and the mom didn't have an accent, or, like, their accents were different. It's, like, that really threw me off, because it's, like, you hear her voice first, because she does the narration, and you're like, okay, cool. So you're thinking, okay, this is gonna be, like The Witch or something. We're like, oh, this is somewhat like New England folklore. They're gonna make it New England-ish, whatever, that kind of stuff. And then everyone else is like, oh, hello there! I've got an accent! Like, not, like, we're not going full Monty Python, but you get what I mean. It was just, like, that really bothered me. What I liked about the movie was the visuals were really, really good. And, again, to bring up Mandy, like, and kind of color out of space kind of stuff, where it did do, like, natural earth colors, duh. But then there's a time where, like, this bright red comes in, and you're like, what the fuck? But it worked, like, cinematography was great, all that stuff. Like, I don't know, I feel like because we all know, like, Hansel and Gretel so much, that, like, this is, like, I guess you would say the more, like, accurate, one, where it's not Disney-fied, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, no, this shit that happened, like, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, old stories used to be about learning lessons, not about meeting a prince, that kind of shit. I don't know, I think it's because we've heard, and there goes the sun for a second, but, like, we've heard Hansel and Gretel so much that it I don't know, I guess there's, like, no surprise, you know what I mean? Or, like, you're kind of just, like, get on with it, which I can understand why I saw there was a lot of people complaining about the pacing of it, because they're like, we know what happens, per se, they're like, when do you kill the witch, and when do you do this, and da-ba-da-ba. But then, like, there was, like, subtle little nuances that were different, in it and stuff, and I'll go a little bit, I guess, into spoilers in a second, but other than that, like, I did enjoy this movie, not as much as I enjoyed Color Out of Space, because there were things that took me out of it, like I said, her accent, and then, like, just, there were a couple points, I don't know, maybe because while I was watching it, I did pause, like, when the third act was happening, because an episode of, What We Do in the Shadows was airing, so maybe I had to, like, kind of go back and remind myself or some shit, but, yeah, there's some parts where I was like, wait, huh? What? Oh, that kind of stuff. I do recommend it, like, it's like, what's, like, a $5.99 rental, so, like, whatever, what I'm saying. Because, again, there's certain other movies I want to watch, but they're still on, like, $19.99, $14.99 rentals, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Anyway, I'm gonna go into spoilers. 1, 2, 3, spoilers. So, like, the story starts out, it's usually like, Hansel and Gretel, it's two kids, they wandered in the woods and the breadcrumbs and the shibidibida. But this one, it's like, the mom is crazy, and then the daughter's like, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. And the story begins with, like, Gretel trying to get a job, and this creepy guy was like, oh, like how creepy guys are, it's like, yeah, he wants, like, a housemaid, all that stuff, but then he, like, asked her, like, are you still intact? I was like, oh, I'm starting my evening, and so she was, like, smart, and she was like, no, bitch. And of course the mom is, like, freaking out, so then they ran out of the house and all that stuff. And the whole time she's very skeptical, because obviously Hansel's a little boy, so he's like, oh my god, I smell bacon, I smell, like, baked goods coming out of this house, all that stuff. But yeah, it was about the story about, like, there was this kid, and she, like, predicted stuff, but then she's, like, caused bad things to happen, so they banished the child into the woods, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, in the end, unless I'm interpreting this wrong, it turns out that Gretel is that child. Because in the movie, she even said, like, oh, I don't know when I heard about this story. It's like, I always knew about this story. And it's like, yeah, because you are... I mean, like, I don't know if saying I'm interpreting it wrong, because in the end, she does kill the witch by, using the force, and all that stuff, and then her hands turn black. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so... like, that was kind of cool, to be like, oh, yeah, okay, like, so, that, you killed your mom, in a sense. Like, you killed your mom because, well, she was gonna kill your little brother, or per se little brother, I just don't understand why she didn't have a fucking accent. Like, to that part, I just really don't get, It's like, that's what's gonna bother me. Like I said, I really like the cinematography. What else was like gonna be the spoiler? Oh, the fact that like the witch, you know how the witch is always portrayed as like, oh, she's an old lady, but she really is like young. She's like 32, you know. You know, she's got her long black jet hair, you know. Anyway, but then she makes herself old to be like more, I guess, nice, and people like she's able to lure kids in and all that stuff. You know, parts where she was like, oh yeah, you know, I banished my child into the woods and then I ate my other children, and I'm just like, oh, fuck, all right, you know. Like again, like those parts where it just like when they do those kind of like little reveals, and like I like how the smokestack was just billowing white, and then it's like I ate my own children and started billowing red, because that doesn't make sense, but like okay, that it's a good, you know, symbolism, all that stuff. Like, oh my god. Like I said, I think it's just, like, again, I enjoyed it. I understand why other people didn't like it, but it also is one of those, like, it doesn't need to be like that, you know? It's like, not full comparison, but it's like people who complain about, you know, the Star Wars sequels. And I'm like, yeah, I get you, but also at the same time, like, it's like, it don't need to be like, I get it, but okay, you know, because a lot of people were saying how this is like a lower budget version, like some people were like, someone said if this had A24 attached to it, then the reception of it would have been different, and then other people were saying, oh, this is trying to be A24, which is ridiculous because they're just like that, you know. And then other people were saying how this was trying too hard to be like The Witch, but then like they made it Hansel and Gretel, which I know I mentioned, like, New England folklore thingy. Why is my face so itchy? Again, I'm like, I get it, you know, but it's also, like, a lot of these kind of folk tales and all this stuff, like, they're gonna be very similar like that, you know? It's like if this kind of like internet criticism existed back in the day, and then they release like, you know, Sleeping Beauty or freaking Snow White. They're like, oh, you know, like sleeping just like the other movie where she was sleeping, and then there's a prince. Oh, another story about a prince. Disney's running out of ideas. You know, like no one's saying that. You know, I mean, I guess nowadays they'll be saying that. But yeah, what else did they say? They said something like, they said something. It's like the witch and something. I don't remember. It was like, they were just really upset. Oh yeah, this said that if A24 produces CW, but I'm like, it's not, no, like, it's terrible. Like, it's not terrible. Like, have these people watched the 50 Shades movie? Like, do you really want to talk about terrible? Have you watched Neil Breen? Like, you guys really want to, like, you know, like, talk about terrible? Like, oh god. But yeah, I do like this director. I liked his, what's that movie with fucking her face? I learned her name with a face. Emma Roberts, the Black Coat's daughter. I really liked that one because that had like a twist at the end, and I was like, oh shit, you know. What did I give that? Oh, yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Oh, funny enough, okay. But the thing is, I didn't like I am the pretty things that live in the house and I ate a sandwich or something like that. Oh, I gave it kind of similar to, oh, okay, whatever. I'm looking at like my rating system, like, well, you know what? It doesn't mean anything then. Well, look at that. That's exactly what I'm saying. It don't mean shit, you know? Like what you like. Anyway, but anywho, yeah, like, if you want something, I guess, like that happens in the woods and it's like atmospheric and all that shit, sure, watch this. Again, it's 87 minutes. It's a bit slow, but like, you know, it's not gonna hurt you. The score is like, you know, it's pretty decent. Again, like, if we're gonna compare it to Mandy, that thing was a masterpiece. But anyway, yeah. So that's Gretel and Hansel. Gretel, you know, I was supposed to Gretel E. Hansel. What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, I'm looking at my list. I got so far I got 2 more that I looked at, like, I can rent that aren't like crazy expensive. Like, I don't know, I just feel like $20 is like asking for a lot. Like 15 is like, come on, man, you know. Like, yeah, I pay that to go to the theater because I'm in like this, you know, big ass room, you know, in my semen encrusted seat, you know, with my nachos and shit. I have to pay for a lift to go. Yeah, I spent a lot of money to go to the theater. So anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Bye.